Hey everybody, it's the Van Show. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And today, we've got a very special guest. Today we got Dusty Bowling. Say hi, Dusty.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good, how are you?
I'm so happy to have you on the show.
Thank you, I'm so happy to be here.
Well, it's our honor, I'm sure.
Oh, thank you.
So we're going to start off with a couple softballs here.
Okay.
And I want to ask you, where are you from?
I am from Arizona, and I've lived in Arizona most of my life, mostly in the desert, but I don't currently live in the desert right at this moment.
You've got a couple survival stories that you've written. Like, is there something that really interests you about survival in general?
Yeah, well, you know, it's funny, when I started writing, and I started with writing about Avon Green, I wasn't writing survival stories, but the more I adventured out into the desert, my family and I, we love to go out into these out-of-the-way places, and we love to just go to places where a lot of people can't find, and we've gotten into a couple of pickles. Like, we've gotten broken down way out in the middle of nowhere. We've gotten, like, flooded, trying to go across a river, because we have this, like, big four-wheel drive thing that can generally go anywhere, but apparently not underwater. And so we've gotten into some pickles, and those sorts of experiences, being out in nature, got me thinking a lot about survival out in the desert, and like, what would we do if we couldn't get back, and things like that. And so it's really all these life experiences and enjoying exploring out in the desert that have really given me a lot of survival story ideas.
Because what we'd really like to know is what got you started in writing. How long ago did you know you really loved writing?
So I didn't know that I loved writing actually till I was pretty old, but what I always knew from the time I first started reading was that I loved books. And so I started reading really heavily around third grade, and I knew from the moment I started reading that I loved stories, and I love stories more than anything just about. It was my favorite thing. So when I was in elementary school, I read so incredibly much. I read through my whole elementary school library, and books were just so important to me. They were my friends when I didn't have very many friends. They comforted me during hard times. They taught me so many things, and they were an escape when I needed one from time to time. And so I carried that love of reading with me through my whole life. But you know, I always thought that becoming a published author was an impossibility for someone like me. So, you know, I'd go into the library when I was a kid, and I'd see those names on the books, and I'd think, I could never do that. That's an impossible goal, so I shouldn't even try.
I wanted to ask you about rejection.
Oh, yeah, I've had a lot of that.
Yeah, and that's kind of a common thing that we hear a lot, you know, especially from very successful authors, is that, you know, the front end of their career was a big pile of rejection letters. Did you have that same experience?
I did. So, you know, I told you that a lot of why I put off writing for so long was because I thought I would be rejected and that I would fail. And you know what? It did happen. For my first book, I got over 100 rejections, 100 rejections. And so it was very discouraging, and it was very hard, but you know what? I didn't give up. I kept rewriting that story and kept trying until that story did get published. So it can be really discouraging when you get rejection, and it's really hard to hear the criticism, but as a writer, I still get it all the time, all that criticism. And so we kind of have to learn to take that criticism, and we use it to strengthen our work, to make our books better. And we just keep chugging along, and you develop a really thick skin as a writer. And so I think that's a good trait to have if you want to be a writer, and just know that if you keep trying and you keep putting your best in, you can never regret doing that.
So let's talk about the books you brought today.
Okay.
Yeah, so the book you've got here on display, this is the book that was from last year?
Yeah, so this was the book on the Bluebonnet and Lone Star lists.
Yeah, congratulations, by the way.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored. The Canyon's Edge, it's about this girl, Nora, you see here at the bottom of this slot canyon, who is hiking in this slot canyon with her father, way out in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the Sonoran Desert, and a flash flood sweeps through the canyon and sweeps her father away, and she has to find him and save both their lives while also being stalked by this scorpion-like monster that is following her through the canyon. So it's a little bit of a scary story and a survival story, and it has a lot of other layers as well, because Nora is also having to face something really terrible that happened to her family 1 year prior as she makes her way through the canyon. So I'm really excited about this book, and I hope kids like it. And one thing that I love about this book is I think it's really good for reluctant readers, because I know it looks kind of thick, but if you open it up, you'll see there's tons of comforting white space on the page because it's written in verse. So even though it looks like a thicker book, it's a really, really fast read, and you can just burn through those pages super fast, and it's very exciting and intense.
I do want to ask you about your character, Avon Green.
Okay.
Because I find it very interesting. You don't see a lot of characters like Avon Green. So a lot of times when a story is about a character with, a difference or what some would consider a disability, that kind of becomes the focus of the story.
Yeah.
And that doesn't really seem to be the case with Avon. It seems more like ancillary or like it's just like that. I think we need more of that.
Oh,
can you talk about your your inspiration and some of your research that you did into writing a character who doesn't have arms?
Yeah, so Avon Green took tons and tons and tons and tons of research for years before I ever sat down and writing stories about her. And I did start with older stories for middle grade readers in the Insignificant Events in Life of a Cactus and the sequel that it has. And it was inspired largely by my own family members who have limb differences, and one family member specifically, my cousin, who was killed in the war in Iraq, unfortunately, but before he passed away, he had lost his arm. And so it got me thinking a lot about people who live with limb differences, and also got me realizing, because I had just started writing at this time, that there just were not many characters out there, really any at all, that I could find at the time that had significant limb differences in children's literature. But it would be years of researching people, meeting people, talking to people, learning about people before I would feel comfortable writing about a character who lives without arms. But Avon was really greatly inspired, though, by three women specifically. Barbie Thomas, who lives in Arizona where I do, and she's a bodybuilder.
Whoa.
And Jessica Cox, who also lives in Arizona where I do, and she's a motivational speaker, and she has her pilot's license and can fly a plane with her feet. And
cool.
Letitia Wexton, who does the Tisha Unarmed series on YouTube. So those three women have been a big part of this series, and every Avon-related project, they always read, they have their eyes on the stories, they read them, they give feedback, they make sure that the representation is positive, that it's realistic, that it's right. And so I feel really good about this character. I love this character, and you're right, her disability doesn't define who she is. It's just a part of her life and how she does things. So she does everything with her feet, and she's okay with that. She can do so many things with her feet, like right here, playing the guitar that she's learning in this book. So she's a very special character to me.
But let's quickly do a game. I'd like to do a game with you.
Yeah, let's do a game.
And the game is entitled Truth or Dare.
Oh my goodness.
And for Truth or Dare, you can either pick Truth or Dare.
Okay.
So which one would you like?
Well, I'm going to be daring and go with Dare.
Ooh. All right, so for Dare, we're going to do a game called Fortunately, Unfortunately.
Okay.
Are you familiar with the game?
I am.
All right, so do you want to be the optimist or the pessimist?
The pessimist, because I am kind of a pessimist.
All right, here we go. I'll be
good
the
at
optimist. Fortunately, I'm taking a great trip into the desert.
Unfortunately, I got a flat tire.
Oh, but fortunately, I brought a spare.
Unfortunately, I blew an axle.
Ooh, but fortunately... all right, I think we might stop there. Dusty, thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been awesome.
So nice to meet you, Van. Thank you for having me.
Goodbye.